to welcome Dr. Veeraswamy Kalanidhi.
Hi, good evening. Good evening to everybody.
Good evening, sir. Welcome.
Good evening.
Thank you. Thanks for having me along with you all, especially in this innovative meeting. It's a pleasure being here. Thank you.
So welcome on Digital Parliament. So to begin with, what was your journey like? What was the transition phase when you decided to join politics?
Okay, I have to give you a brief background about myself for people to be able to understand my transition from being a doctor to being a politician. I was born into a family which is a political family. My father was a politician. He is retired now. And he was one of the tall leaders of DMK party, where he was the party treasurer. And he was also a minister who served during 3 terms. And I was away from politics, and I was totally focused on medicine because my father wanted me to become a doctor. So he said, like, you can serve the people better over there. And he said that the path in politics is not for the faint-hearted or like people who are not very accommodated. So I had pursued my medical career, where I finished my MBBS, and then I finished my MS in general surgery, and then I finished my MCH in plastic surgery, and I finished my FRCS from Edinburgh. And I went for training to several countries for a surgery called as microvascular training. And till 2 years back, I was operating. I used to operate, and now I do surgeries probably very far and few in between. In the whole of 2 years, probably I would have done something like 15 or 20 surgeries at the most. That too for party people who want to get operated, where we do it on a free basis. So having said that, the decision to shift from medicine to politics was something where I realized that if I keep operating, I probably can do good for some people, like one patient at a time when I operate. But if you are an educated people come into politics, I believe that we can do a lot more, because a single policy change, a policy decision can affect thousands and lakhs of people's lives, if not crores of people's lives. So that is one thing which has always been rankling in my mind. And I have seen this happen practically in Tamil Nadu. There are so many policy decisions which have been taken by the government of Tamil Nadu, headed by the DMK party and also by ADMK party. I'm sure that you people, most of you must be aware that we had this innovative thing called as noon meal scheme, which encouraged a lot of students to come to schools. The reasons why Tamil Nadu is one of the most educated, next to Kerala, arguably, is because we gave incentives for children to come to schools, and unless you have school children, you cannot get graduates and postgraduates and the other requisites, the infrastructure. So the first step was building up this infrastructure of creating valuable human resources. That comes only from schooling. So we have taken that, and so similarly regarding reservation, there are a lot of different views or opinions about that. But the way I look at it is, when DMK party was promoting reservation, if you are not going to provide reservation, imagine that say about 60% or 70% of the lower socioeconomic status people are deprived of education or any of these benefits. You are straight away looking at an economy where that 70% are not going to be productive. They're going to be I'm not saying that farmers are not. Farming is a great economy for us, but we also have to look at other resources of services. Today, India is one of the leading countries in providing services throughout the world. So all this can happen only through bringing in certain reforms. And the other question, the thing was about the water problem. I'm sure that every state is facing a huge water problems. And this is one of the main reasons where I thought, not necessarily for my children, I thought for the next generation, our duty is to ensure that we leave them adequate natural resources for them to be able to sustain for the centuries to come. So we cannot be whatever natural resources. I think it should be preserved and it should be safeguarded for posterity. So one of the things was, you have to understand that India probably about 200 years back the population of India was only about 10 crores. I mean, arguably, I mean, like, because I remember that 1947, it was.
In the next question. So maybe
Yeah.
we can, since the COVID-19 times are going on, we would like
Yes.
to know what are the initiatives that you have taken up for your constituency, as well as if you have received any sustainability CSR supports from the companies, because it's an IT hub.
Yes. It is not an IT hub. I mean, like, I would like to correct you over there. I will tell you briefly about North Chennai, and I will talk about my initiatives in regarding COVID. As early as in February 7th of 2020, I had raised this awareness about the COVID-19 and its threat to India, and there were rumors at the point of time that some ships were being were coming from China, dumping some of their medical wastes in India. There was a rumor. We don't know how far it was true, but I raised the issue in Parliament, and I also spoke saying that we should create more awareness among the people about COVID-19, and also the need for screening people who are coming from abroad. Not only human beings, but even the vessels which are coming in and the goods which are coming in, and all those things needs to be screened. So this was in the early days of the COVID-19. So apart from that, we have repeatedly been talking about the measures which the government has to take. And also I had, coming to my constituency, North Chennai, when I was introduced, there was a very flowery picture about North Chennai saying it's the center of Chennai. The fact of the matter is that North Chennai, of the three constituencies in Chennai, South and Central, North Chennai is the most underpoverished. It is the most socioeconomically backwards because it is the oldest part of Chennai. North Chennai was the only part which was there probably about till 60, 70 years back. All the rest of Chennai, the North, Central and South, has developed after that, where more and more planning and economy has been much better in those places. So we have been facing a lot of problems where North Chennai has borne the brunt of the COVID amongst the whole of Chennai. So North Chennai accounts for maybe something like 40 to 50% of the total cases which are being reported in Chennai. And as you rightly mentioned, there are a lot of companies, but they are not IT companies. IT companies are all in the South Chennai. So North Chennai is more of industries, where we are talking about harbors, ports, and industries which are available over here. And these companies have been very helpful. In fact, even recently, we had our main requirement was during the COVID, providing them with food, because most of these people were not able to afford food. And they were supporting us in a large measure. We were doing it from our party and also from CSR support. And the next thing what we wanted to make sure was that these people when they have a health problem, when they go to a hospital, the biggest problem what we were facing at one point of time was oxygen. So the quick fix solution for that was getting oxygen concentrators, where through my effort and by the good support of all these companies, we have brought in something like close to 1,000 to 1,500 oxygen concentrators to Chennai. And there is a huge hospital, a government hospital in Chennai. We have made sure that the hospital is being taken care of in forms of providing them with equipments. And we must have brought in during this COVID, companies were helpful and good enough to provide us with support amounting to close to around 20 crores. So this was a great relief for us. And also I had mentioned in the parliament that during the pandemic, the decision to cut off the MP's, Member of Parliament's local area development funds was a big disappointment for us, all the members of Parliament across party lines. Even BJP MPs were terribly disappointed because, see, though it is called as MP lads, it is not the MP's funds, it's the people's funds, and it is provided for by the Constitution of India. And to unilaterally take a decision saying that we are going to stop there, when I'm not talking politics, I'm just highlighting the issues which are happening over here. When the Prime Minister stubbornly wants to go ahead and build the Parliament, the new Parliament, at the cost of 20,000 crores, and to buy a plane for himself and to build his own house, it runs into several thousand crores at a time when the whole country is starving. we thought was not fair. We thought was not right. And, like we have so many other issues which we have with the thing, but when it comes to their vaccine policies, and the next thing was regarding vaccine, I would request every one of you all to go and research about something called as HBL-IVC. There is an integrated vaccine complex in a place called Chengalpet. It is about 1 hour driving distance from my place where I am. So this is a facility which has been, which was started from 2012, and the project was initiated in 2009. The work began in 2012, and it was completed in 2016-17 to the state where it is today. And they have already spent close to about 500 to 600 crores, and they have to receive another 300 crores. For want of 300 crores, the facility lies empty without even producing a single vaccine to date. And I went and inspected that facility, and I spent 3 hours with the CEO over there, one Dr. Vijayan. And it was heartbreaking to see that this facility has the capacity to produce 160 crores of vaccine in a year. It is more than what the country needs. Had this government woken up even before, if you give me 300 crores today, we can start this center and it will be up and running in 4 months' time. But they are not willing to give it part with it because it is totally under the central government, under the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. And we have requested our chief, I passed on this information to our chief minister. Our chief minister visited the facility. He spent 1 hour and he understood the importance and significance of it. The next day, our ministers for industry had visited Delhi along with our party floor leader, member of Parliament, Mr. T.R. Balu and Thangam Tenarasu. They went and met the ministry over there, and they requested that you kindly hand over the facility to us and we will produce the vaccines, for which the central government has denied us. So we are still fighting for it. We are saying at least you give it to us or you start. See, somebody has to start the vaccine production over there. Because even today, they are passing strictures saying that nobody should talk about the supply of vaccine to the states, which I think is not a democracy at all. I mean, like if we are in a democracy, we should have the liberty to question the central government. The union government's role is only to facilitate things and to make things convenient for all the states. The whole concept of calling themselves a central government itself is falsification. It is a union of states and it's a union government. So they do not understand this principle of the federalism, and they feel that they are the bosses, and we are fighting against that kind of a colonial attitude. So we are questioning them, and we are asking them very uncomfortable questions. And now we are in a stage where we are also trying to see how we can procure vaccines from elsewhere. But all of a sudden now they have taken a stand that the union government will provide vaccines for all the states free of cost. But we have to see when it is going to happen. See, saying that we have placed order for 30 crores and 50 crores is all right. But can you give us a timeline? Can you give us a schedule? When are these vaccines coming? When is it going to be available to us? The cost of putting the vaccines is cheaper than instituting a lockdown for the whole country for 1 month. The costs are so minuscule. The vaccinating the whole country will only come to 1 lakh crores. But if you lock down the country, I'm sure a lot of economists have seen the way that our GDP has fallen in the 3 months of lockdown period. We went down as low as 25% of our GDP. And I think my numbers may not be exactly correct. I am not an economic expert, but it was significantly worrisome. And a lot of people, unemployment, the way it has grown, I mean, like the way we have touched all-time high on unemployment, children's education. I mean, like you're talking about people who have not written +2. How are you going to select people for medical exams? You brought in a system called as NEET, which is totally not necessary, because I am a doctor and I did not take NEET and I am doing fairly well. So what was the need for a common entrance exam? You allow education is a state subject matter, and it should be given to the states to develop their own ways of developing their human resources. I don't think it should be a uniform thing where you come in and say that we have a national education policy where they're going to say that Hindi you have to compulsory learn. What I'm saying, you look at the statistics, especially recently they have released official statistics of the Niti Aayog. If you see that Hindi heartland is faring so very poorly in comparison to most of the other states, like Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Karnataka, West Bengal, all these states are doing fairly much better than most of the Hindi heartland. So what is the point in you asking us to learn something when we are showing you the way? So this is my stand on that. So this is our activities which we have been doing regarding the COVID.
That's really commendable, and I hope that you get the necessary support to manufacture more vaccines within your premises and within Chennai itself. So, North Chennai is also known as the heartbeat of Chennai, but faces, as we were earlier mentioned, water crisis, especially in 2019. The four water bodies it receives water from dried up due to abrupt infrastructure development, which is blamed. So, how are you addressing this challenge, and how do you see that in future we don't see these as a headline?
Okay, like I told you, my one of the main reasons for me to come into politics was the water shortage, or rather the inefficient way in which the handling of water preservation is being done by governments. I mean, like, I'm not blaming the union government or the state government or anything. I'm just saying people have not thought about it. When I was a kid, like I'm talking about 40 years back, it used to be a kind of a joke saying that in Dubai, people buy water. I mean, like, people buy water in Dubai used to be a joke for us, because when we were kids, we used to drink water straight from the tap. So that is how I was raised, and most of the people in Chennai. I don't know about the rest of the country, but now we have reached a stage where we are buying water, and we have the next big problem that we're going to be facing is there are going to be wars over water, especially with India and China. I mean, like, across the Brahmaputra in China, there is allegedly they're constructing a huge dam, which is probably going to cause a huge crisis. And the way we have to address this is, if you look at the amount of rainfall which has been happening over the past few decades, it has not changed much. The situation has stayed the same, but you have to understand that the population has grown to such an extent over a period of 200 years. Like I said, over a period of several thousand years, human population had grown to 10 crores in India. And today we are probably touching about, official figures are not yet there. We don't know what, because the census also has been postponed because of this pandemic. They are from 21 to 2022. But a fair estimate would be 140 crores. So we are talking about, if you look at the population growth which has happened between 2000 and 2001 and 2011, it's 20 crores. So we are talking about what population existed in India over several thousands of years. We have brought in more than, we brought double that population in a matter of 10 years. So that is a point which I think everybody should be able to assimilate. With this current growth rate, imagine every year the growth rate of our population is going to be 20 crores. Soon we are going to end up where we probably are going to have shortage not only of water, we are going to have shortage of food also. Like, soon we'll be reaching that stage where we will not be able to have adequate amount of food produced, because the water shortage is going to create that also. Because even for producing rice and wheat, you need water. And there have been studies by the government of India and all other countries there, where they have said about 4 crops take away 80% of the total water supply which is needed for agriculture, of which rice and wheat and sugarcane and I forget the fourth one. So we have to look at alternate ways, or you have to come out with some kind of agricultural scientific innovations, where instead of your crops like yielding in 3 months or 4 months, you have to look at crops which are going to be yielding in 30 days time, the way the population is growing at present. So, like I said, so water is and the solution for this water is the amount of water which is going into the sea is something which can be utilized better. I mean, like, there are a lot of ecological changes which may happen because of that, but we'll have to take the chance. And there is a project proposal by the government of India called as National Waterways Project. I would request everybody to read up about that also. There is a ministry where they have created International Waterways Authority of India. I mean, Inland Waterways Authority of India. So this authority is something where they are talking about linking of rivers in a phased manner. So there's this national waterways. They have already envisaged this project where there is national waterways 1, 2, 3, and 4. 4 being something which connects Andhra and Tamil Nadu, and the rest of them being the other states. If this is taken on a war footing and done, maybe within the next 10 or 15 years time, we will not have a water shortage, and it will be a solution where we are in a, I mean, like kind of a crazy situation because you hear of floods and people dying of inundation and other issues in the north, and in the south, people are starving of water and dying. So we have such disparity within our country, which can be addressed if this national waterways project is implemented. I'm sure that there are a lot of, I mean, huge challenges lie ahead of us. I mean, like talking about how it's going to affect the ecology and all those things. But I think we cannot hold that as reason for delaying this and waiting for the last minute where several people are, millions of people are going to be affected.
Uh, uh, that would be great if we achieve something like that. So we will see better headlines at least. Sir, you are also a member of Consultative Committee, Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. Sir, in future, are we preparing on any those lines, such as if we are hit by a pandemic, we would not have to undergo these harsh circumstances?
See, we still are not out of this one. So we are still facing the wrath of the second wave of the COVID-19 pandemic. And we do not know whether we're going to have a third wave and fourth wave and what is going to be the future of this COVID. So currently the only knowledge, and let me tell you that everybody talking about, say, predicting things are only doing that. They are only predicting. Being a medical doctor, let me make it very clear. Our understanding of COVID today is very, very superficial. And with time, our knowledge is going to grow more. For example, oxygen is something which is definitely going to be needed because that is not going to change. It has not changed over several decades or centuries. But the medicines which we are currently trusting on, the remdesivir and the tocilizumab and all these newer medicines, you will see a quantum change in these medications which are going to be utilized over the next, every 3 months, you'll be having new directives. If you see how the COVID-19 has been it has evolved, we've seen the first wave, and then we saw that several months there was a quiescent stage where there was numbers were low. We were lulled into a sense of false security, and then suddenly we were hit by the second wave, where the whole country was shocked, where the number of deaths were, I mean, like unbelievably high. And the only solution what we have is a vaccine, and we have nothing in sight in the near future towards that solution. So we are asking the union government to at least let us try and do something to make it possible where we probably can supply for the whole world, if not for the whole of this country. So that is the take on regarding the status what we are right now. And your question about future pandemics. See, I mean, like, I mean, that is a very easy question to ask. I'm just hoping and praying for mankind's sake that we do not have one more pandemic like this, because this pandemic is something which has not been seen in close to a century. So let's hope that it is not going to happen in our lifetime, a new pandemic again of this severity. So having said that, lessons should be learned where there is something called as a National Disaster Relief Ministry. They have a separate ministry for that. And they, sadly, the people sitting there are jobless because they are not adequately funded. If you look at most of the other Western countries, developed nations, they provide adequate funding where they look at all kinds of threats, be it a threat from a neighboring country, be it a biological threat, be it a chemical threat. They have, I mean, like, they have a plan charted out. So for pandemic, I mean, like, I think the government of India was, I mean, like, they were not prepared. I mean, nobody can be prepared for this, but even their decisions about what they were doing. I mean, like, when the Honorable Prime Minister came and said, I mean, like, clapping hands and lighting up the lamps and switching off lights. In fact, let me tell you about switching off lights. His decision to switch off lights on one particular day at one particular time was creating such a havoc with the electricity department, because it is a very, it's a very, I can explain it to you very simply, saying that if you switch on all your electric appliances in the whole of your town at the same time, you will have something called as a power outage. Similarly, when you switch off everything at a particular time simultaneously, this can cause huge outages where the substations, the people have to be prepared for that. So I want Tamil Nadu government, the Chief Minister's office, the then Chief Minister's office, and they took remedial measures. But these announcements were made by a prime minister who was not knowledgeable enough about the ramifications of what he was. He probably would have thought just switching off the light is, I don't know, I mean, like it is kind of a miracle is going to happen doing that. But I saw no reason or no scientific explanation or even a sentimental explanation for why you should switch off light. I mean, like I would say that the whole phrase of switching off light is probably an ill omen, even if you go by religious terms. I would have said switch on lights and light up more things would have been how the way I would have looked at it. But having said that, the way the government has handled this and the National Disaster Relief Ministry should have taken lessons and perish the thought of having another pandemic, but we should be adequately prepared for any pandemic in future.
Thank you, sir. My next question to you is about Vyasar Pari in North Chennai, which is also known for different reasons in terms of crime. There is very high crime rate over there and very low employment, as you had rightfully mentioned earlier. What steps are you taking in order to control this crime and to increase the employment ratio?
Okay, so like I already said, North Chennai is the oldest part of Chennai. So the reason why it is backward is there was a time when people couldn't afford to buy properties in North Chennai. But over time, when there were more planned areas of the city which were being developed, like Central Chennai and South Chennai, those were not affordable in North Chennai, where I'm just giving an example. If they had one plot of land and they had fallen in their businesses and they were economically down, they could sell that plot of land and could buy a plot of land in Central or South Chennai, maybe about 5 times the size of the plot which they had sold. So the area of land which they could buy is much bigger. So houses, if you see in these places, are all about 2,400 square feet or 4,800 square feet and higher. But if you see North Chennai, you will be surprised to see that in a dwelling unit of 10 by 10, there'll be about 5 or 6 people living, and there'll be rows of houses where there'll be a common toilet where everybody uses, and invariably women sleep inside the house and men sleep outside, and if it rains, like God help them. So this is the kind of situation which is faced by maybe about anything between 50 to 60% of the population is this. I'm not saying that the whole of North Chennai is like this. And the remaining 50%, you can find the so-called, I mean, like more affordable and the middle class, and all these people are there. But the crime and everything happens because whenever there is huge economic activity happening, especially places like the harbor, I mean, like you're talking about the port area and all these things, obviously a lot of illegal things are happening over there. I mean, like, I'm sure that everybody would remember the movie Dawn, where, I mean, like Amitabh Bachchan is in the port and what all happens over there. And the same way, there's a movie called Nayakan where they have Kamala Hassan is like, the port area is a high violent and very crime-prone area. So obviously, and people over here are, I mean, like their opportunities are much lesser for education and employment, and their only way for employment is by working as a laborer. So we are trying on seeing how we can change this by expanding where first we want to population density, we want to kind of distribute it where we want to spread this area wider. But that's a huge challenge because once you are accustomed, you will be surprised. I mean, like I'm talking about a lane just about 3 feet where only a two-wheeler can go, even an auto cannot go, where there will be about 1,000 people living in that stretch. And when I was campaigning, I was totally amazed because when I went in the morning, I saw a boy, I mean, like I say boy, a young man in his probably 20s, in his shorts and like kind of bunian, and he was brushing his teeth outside the house. And as I was campaigning and coming out, when I was passing by his house again, I saw him coming out much better dressed than me, going to his office to work. So these are the kind of people who are living there. And once they have this sense of my house, it's very difficult to explain to them that we will provide you with a bigger, better house with more amenities, which will be more helpful for you. But you have to shift from here to say about 3 kilometers away. So when you say that, see, these people have lived all their lives, generations they have lived here, where they would not be happy to relocate themselves from this place. So that is one thing. And the other thing we are talking about is bringing in more education institutions, like making, apart from schools, we want to bring in engineering colleges and of quality to be started in our place, where we already have a medical college. So we are trying to see how we can bring in more educational institutions over here so that these people can be given opportunity to educate themselves and incentivize them to do this. So we are working on these lines.
Excellent, sir. So from my end, last but not the least, what is your vision for North Chennai and digital parliament being a tech app primarily connecting the masses with the elected political leaders? What kind of features do you foresee apps like this to be having?
Can you get me? Your voice was breaking in between. Can I have the question again? You said that women are using an app. I didn't understand
Your vision for North of Chennai, and digital parliament is a online app which connects the political leaders with the masses. So what kind of features do you foresee it having?
Okay. My vision for North Chennai, I would probably be limiting myself, because my vision is for more of, like, if possible, Tamil Nadu, and if possible for the whole country. I mean, like, see, the Prime Minister, Honorable Prime Minister, has expressed his vision, which I am very happy to have see that he has that vision, saying that he wants to double India's GDP by 2024. See, when it is an ambitious thought, but we should also have some reality in what we are talking about. So to say that India will have a $5 trillion economy by 2024, forget about the pandemic. Even if the pandemic had not been there, I don't think that it was a realistic target for in any sense. I mean, like, I don't think any economist anywhere in the world would have, approved of that target. But having said that, the next point he makes is talking about Make in India. See, the problem is Make in India. I'm sure that everybody understands the bureaucratic red tapeism that we have. It used to be worse earlier, which has been relaxed to a certain extent during the Narasimha Rao government during the 1991-96 period, and where India's economy has definitely grown tremendously, and we've seen economy growing extremely well. But if you want India to grow, I think more than Make in India, I think we should start a narrative called as Think in India. I mean, you should be, today, most of the wealth in the world is by intellectual property rights. If you look at most of the, like the Western world, today software, which is intangible, something which you cannot see, is ruling the roost, where they make billions, if not trillions of dollars. So we have the capacity where India is one of the, we get most talented people coming from India, but most of these people go abroad because they are not utilized over here. So we have to spend more on research related projects. And if you look at the amount of research which is being done world over, earlier it used to be the US which had the highest number of research papers being published, but now China has overtaken, where they are leading the research field. And India is, though we have grown, the numbers are not very satisfying, or I would say it is pathetic actually. But I think the country should have a vision where we should have a leader who is able to visualize this and say that we are going headed in a way where we are going to empower people, make sure that we create opportunities for these people to do what they want to do, and the government will facilitate it if it is a good idea, like just like any other venture capital does with a new successful project. And having said that, for North Chennai, I mean, like there are a lot of things which I have spoken about how we can improve the standards of living. And the other one is simple logic being, if you empower women, empowering women will ensure that there will be more economy happening than, I mean, restricting them or denying them their rightful opportunities. So a simple logic being, if 50% of our workforce, of our population is men and the 50% is women, if you don't allow 50% of the women to work, you can imagine that amount of income is not being generated. Like if you have that 50% added to this existing income, we are talking about an economy which can grow to a huge extent. And so the other next one is talking about GDP. Everybody talks about a country's GDP and say they are ranking them according to the amount of money which is being raised by these people. But I have a view of saying that more than the GDP, you should also look at, I mean, like they do have something called as the happiness index and the Gini coefficient. There are so many indicators for how a country does well. And sadly, you will notice that it has been evolving over time where everybody thought that money is the single most important factor. But now we have come to understand that money alone is not the single most important factor, because countries which are economically much lower stand much higher on the happiness index. So your ability to say that enough, I'm happy with what I have, that is something which is lacking. And first we have to understand that we will only be able to earn as much as our potential is. But problem is, like, I don't know, maybe domestically, it's the wives who are complaining about the husbands, saying, see, look at your neighbor, he's doing much better than you. Nobody compares an Ambani or an Adani because they are out of sight. But you will always be compared amongst your peers, you'll be compared with your relatives, you'll be compared with your neighbors, because you see them on a day-to-day basis and you don't want to be left behind. So to stay ahead or abreast with them, you need to work that much more and keep yourself updated about whatever latest things are happening. And talking about the GDP, my idea was, if you say that through the sale of alcohol and through the sale of tobacco, we get a certain amount of GDP, I would classify them as nonsense GDP. And if you're talking about some essential items which are needed, I will say these are sensible GDP. So if you're talking about food, clothing, and shelter, if industries are being done for this, so your banking system should have a system where they say, we will provide loans for sensible GDP businesses, and our interest rates for nonsensical GDP products will be about 25%. I mean, I would say, like, the sky is the limit for charging them on interest if they are going to make money out of alcohol and cigarettes and all these things.
We coming from the CSR and sustainability background, highly appreciate your views on what you just said. On this note, may I just invite Dr. K.K. Upadhyay to present his question.
Thank you, Harsha. Dr. Kalanidhi, it's very progressive to see a professional as a politician, but still general perception is that politics is a shady game. As a practicing, successful professional, a well-established doctor, what is your experience as a politician? And what's your advice you will give to youth and new entrants to join, not to join politics?
Okay, sir, I will tell you I'll try to be brief about this, sir. I mean, like, this is a question which a lot of people do ask me. So the first thing is, when you decide to join politics, the first thing is you should remove your ego and put it in the dustbin and then enter over here. If you have an ego saying, I am so highly qualified and educated, so whatever I say is right, you will be surprised to see that there are some people who are less educated than you, are probably not educated at all, coming out with better solutions and suggestions than you, because you are having a different viewpoint and he has a different viewpoint. So I feel that, in fact, one of my inspirational stories, briefly I will mention about this. I had gone to UK to write my FRCS exams, and I had a situation where I had to go to Edinburgh, which needed a separate visa. So I was not aware of that at that point in time. I'm talking about 20 years back, probably. And I went to the Indian embassy over there. And then the consul general over there in the embassy, he was asking me, he had heard about my father in politics, and he asked me, Doctor, I mean, like, I'm surprised that you are pursuing your medical thing. You are from an illustrious family. You can join politics. I said, no, sir, it's a dirty place, and I don't want to sully myself. So he told me, so if all educated people are going to say this, who is going to clean the system? So that actually made a little bit of sense. So my answer is the same to everybody, sir. I mean, like, for students who are studying today, my advice would be, first, finish your education, find yourself an employment, and you keep yourself updated about politics, whether you like it or not. Read newspapers, understand politics, spend minimum amount of time. See, when you are buying a car or when you're buying a motorbike, you do so much of research. So when you are electing a government for 5 years, I think you should read up enough to ensure that you are voting for the best possible government that you can. So I think you should encourage students, first, educate yourself, become knowledgeable, employ yourself, earn money, ensure that you have earned enough money to make sure that you are not financially dependent on anybody. And then in your later years, after 45, if you feel that I am fairly comfortable with my income, and if you have reached that stage, I would say that you venture into politics and you come and you try to serve the country for the next 10 or 15 years. So this is something which, but don't ever come saying that I finished my schooling, I want to join politics. Please do not do that. I mean, like, because if that is one sure way of you being tempted by somebody coming and saying, I'll pay you to do some job like this, and because you don't have any other economic support, you are going to end up doing the wrong things. If you are economically adequately taken care of by your own self first, even if somebody comes, if I'm able to make about 10 lakhs a month, and I am assured that I'm going to be getting the 10 lakhs a month, once I have assured myself of that, I am not going to be tempted by somebody coming and saying, I'm going to give you 100 crores. Why would I need 100 crores? I mean, like, I don't have time to spend that amount of money. Yes. So if you are entering into politics, you will have a lot of difficulties along the path. But if you come for the right reason, remember that reason and try to stick to that reason through whatever you face. That would be my advice for youngsters.
Thank you, sir. Very well said, and it's really inspirational for all of us. Dr. Kumar, would you like to present your question?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Arsa. In fact, Dr. Veeraswamy is a great man, and he is from Tamil Nadu. Tamil Nadu is one of the progressive industrial state, and I think he may be aware that a house, business house, which is known today worldwide, it started with just operating buses. And same house is the recipient of maximum Deming awards. I am talking about TVS Group. So just a minute before, you were talking about Make in India. And you will be surprised to know, during last 20 years, maximum Indian organizations have won the Deming Prize. And if we see among Indian winners, mostly are from southern part, and among them are mostly from Tamil Nadu. So with this strong background, why our political class should not start advocating our own Indian brands world over and make more and more brands like TVS and many in this series. I think doing so will help not only our industry and GDP to prosper, but youngsters to get job. We would like to listen to you.
Yes, sir. Sir, that is actually a very good question, sir. I'll give you a brief anecdote so that people can understand it better.
Yeah.
As a plastic surgeon, for me, there is a procedure called as skin grafting. So whenever there is a wound, we take skin from one part of some other part, especially the thigh, and put it on that area where there is a wound. And we get paid something like 5,000 rupees or 10,000 rupees for the surgeon gets paid that amount of money. And if I were to get in a month, if I were to get 30 or 40 cases, I should be more than content. I will be happy. And there are plenty of surgeons who do that. But there is something called as a microvascular surgery, where the surgery can last anywhere between 5 hours to about 8 or 10 hours. But the pay you will get will be only about 30,000 rupees. So in that period of time, you probably can do about 10 or 20 skin grafting surgeries. So this idea saying that why not we start something in India, which is going to be a world brand, is something where if you look at the international brands, mostly when you talk about precision and something to do with the metals and materials, the Germans stand out. So if you talk about technology, I mean, like Israel has a lot of innovative technologies which they come out with, be it agriculture or even in the IT field. They have a lot of people who are coming out with these ideas. But the single most important thing is support by the government. If you look at our system of our government, I'm sure that every person who has done anything in the form of business will see the amount of bureaucratic hurdles that we have to pass through. First, this attitude of the bureaucracy to think that every other businessman is a thief and that as if they are the ones who are saving the country or things like that, that attitude should change. We should first be able to understand that everybody is working for the government. I will explain how. Sir, I'm sure that everybody pays income tax. Sir. Nowadays, there is, I mean, like the number of people who are not paying income tax is probably a minuscule nowadays. If you are paying income tax, you fall in the bracket of say 10%, 20%, or 30%. So technically, if I am paying 30% income tax, it means I am spending 30% of a year's time working for the government. So you are technically a government servant for that. My work in 12 months, about 4 months, I'm working for the people of India. So this is how every businessman is doing his business. So first, we should be able to appreciate and acknowledge, and we should encourage businesses to come out with some novel ideas and to establish themselves internationally. That can happen only with the support of the union government and state governments. Look at China. Now China is leading the world in 5G technology because the government permitted their companies to do well. But of course, being a communist country, at the end of their success, they may even throw them in jail and they may even hang them. But that's a different thing. But I say that the government promotes the individuals or individual companies, private companies to perform well, because that way they get the whole economy developed, where it's just a matter of time before they surpass the US economy. It's just a matter of time. So unless we have the government interest, no individuals can do economically well. Sir. I mean, like, except for Adani, whose shares are raising like in the last 5 years, it's doubled, which is an unhealthy economy.
Sir, governments will keep coming and going. It is always happening in Tamil Nadu. In fact, I have been in Tamil Nadu 1 year during early 80s, and I have seen Tamil Nadu nook and corner. Despite very frequent changes in government in Tamil Nadu have changed. Its overall landscapes, industrial landscape, GDP and everything looks much, much better than others. My only point, politicians, why on some of the points which are national points, they come together and start talking one voice, which is badly misleading.
Sir, I will explain this to you in a simple way. Sir. Whichever government, we have said whichever government comes or goes, Tamil Nadu is growing. I would like to say that the two parties which have been ruling Tamil Nadu, one is called the DMK and the other is called the ADMK, which was a split up faction. So technically we are brothers in arms. Sir. So both the parties are ideologically, we are the same. If you look at the otherwise, if you look at the Congress and the BJP, you will find that they have their idea of politics is something which has always mesmerized me. I mean, like I have been I mean, like surprised with the concept saying when the BJP people say that we want a country without Congress. I'm saying, what kind of a human being can say something like that? See, you need to encourage more people to be political parties to voice their concerns so that we can arrive at a consensus about whether we are doing is the right thing or not. BJP behaves as if that they are the only people who are doing the right thing. They make it sound as if that all this development has happened in only the last 6 years, 7 years after BJP. But it is all, they have to understand that be whoever may be in the union government, the work needs to continue and the work has to progress without missing a beat. So that is one thing which happens in Tamil Nadu, where like if our government, a new government comes in, they are not going to trash the previous government's work and start something new. So they will build on it and they'll take it further forward. So that is one reason why Tamil Nadu has like stayed above most of the other states. I mean, like at the time of independence, correct me if I'm wrong, I think Tamil Nadu was probably one of the bottom 3 states in India. Economically, socially, and in the last from the time of independence, I think we are somewhere in the top 3. I mean, like, that did not happen by chance, or it was efforts of great men who had great vision for this state, and they have implemented it, and they have taken us a long way, and we are always indebted to them, and we will follow in their footsteps to make sure that Tamil Nadu probably reaches higher than Maharashtra also.
Thank you. Thank you for the question.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Dr.
May I request Mr. Timothy Kirkman to please come forth and ask his question?
All right. Hi, thank you for having me. It's wonderful listening to the conversation. Thank you so much. Hi, thank you, Harsha. Dr. Veeraswamy, it's very nice to listen to you talk. It's refreshing to hear a politician talk about such good, positive things. So thank you. Some of the points that you brought up that I'm personally interested in, Harsha also brought up with some water shortages too. Those are interesting things to talk about in the future. I'm kind of an innovator and I've always been trying to solve problems in a natural, without chemical kind of ways. I've invented some large battery systems that I'm trying to get implemented here in India. The reason I've left my country is because, which is the US, is that the political situation there doesn't make it that well for us to develop things, even small people. Whereas we now spend a large portion of our budget on war and these kinds of things, we could be using it for research and development and increasing our I mean, yes, America was a great producer at one time, just like Europe was when they started the Industrial Revolution, and it just kind of moved and shifted. I see it coming here to India after China for sure. And I see that there's a lot of potential here in India. I think that also too, that this time, even though we have a time to stop during this COVID, there's an opportunity for us to all sit and think about how we can better approach the future to leave a better situation for our children in the future, no? My main question I think I would be is that I'm interested in energy, and I see a big problems here in India as energy being one of the things that is affecting a lot of the businesses. Even though energy is relatively cheap compared to first world countries here in India, it's still also not secure. It's not consistent. You have a lot of small business owners that have machines that are getting affected by the fact that the power goes in and out all the time. The motors on all their, their machines are breaking all the time because there's not a consistency. What kind of things are you guys doing in Chennai right now or in Tamil Nadu that's kind of helping to build that up so that you can give the small business owners, give the small mom and pop people the security of good electricity and to help, take that, lower the cost of their electricity as well?
Thank you very much, Tim. Actually, when you were talking about war, I just wanted to make one small point. You said US is spending more on war. In fact, I had written to our Prime Minister saying that if you can call for the United Nations and have a treaty where you lead the way forward and tell every country in view of the pandemic that there should not be any war fought between any countries for whatever reasons. And the UN will have a peacekeeping force which can be deployed to any country which fails to follow this law. And the reason why I say that is the government of India spends a budget of about 4.5 lakh crores annually on its defense budget. And approximately around 1 lakh crore is used for capital expenditure. That is for procuring arms and procuring, like your fighter aircrafts or your ships and things like that. So when you're talking about India spending 1 lakh crore, the the States' total defense budget is much, much higher. So if all these countries stop and if they were to use their capital expenditure, I'm not talking about the revenue expenditure. If you keep paying salaries and maintenance and everything, those expenditures, you can keep it with you. If you were to say that, that will come to 50 lakh crores. 50 lakh crores is enough to do research on vaccines and vaccinate the whole world. Like very easily, because the cost of vaccinating India is 1 lakh, and I would say the rest of the world probably will only be 7 lakhs. So that's the population of the whole world. So in 8 lakh crores, you can vaccinate the whole world with whatever vaccine is available today, and you can be rid of this pandemic if only the countries would agree to stop warring on each other. Having said that, you were talking about energy. Energy is a pet project of mine, and you are aware because you are in the field that there are conventional energy and non-conventional energy. So the government of India has taken a step where they are talking about trying to see how they can have maximize non-conventional energy in the form of renewable energy. So we are talking about solar, we are talking about wind turbines, and there is a newer technologies people are talking about, which I have no clue about. It's all Greek and Latin to me. They're talking about hydrogen, using hydrogen and stuff like that. I am trying to educate myself about that. I'm doing a little bit of work on educating myself so that I can stay on the same page when people are talking about this. Having said that, Tamil Nadu is one state where our energy, I think the whole of the country, Tamil Nadu is one of the highest producers of energy, be it conventional or non-conventional. And we always have the energy, electricity department, the ministry is always aware of what our requirements are, and we try to stay as far as possible abreast with the requirements or ahead of the requirements. So I would be happy to say that Tamil Nadu has probably arguably got the highest amount of solar and wind energy, because the government had stepped in and given incentives for people for developing these kind of resources. When we talk about overall energy, there are also, I don't know about cryptocurrency. I don't know how much, my knowledge about cryptocurrency is very, very poor. But I was surprised to hear there is something called as crypto mining, where people can use their softwares, their computer system, and do something called as crypto mining. And they say that if you can mine if you do this crypto mining, you will be spending 10,000 rupees worth of electricity, but you will be generating a revenue of 80,000 or 90,000 rupees. So
would this be a government thing?
No, the government has actually banned cryptocurrency in India. But you know that, banning anything sorry to say that, just like porn, cryptocurrency also is marketed in the dark web, where anybody can have access to that. And unless the government traces your bank accounts and follows an individual, it is almost impossible to, catch hold of somebody who is trading in cryptocurrencies. But one thing is, if this kind of a promotional activity happens, I feel that it is being promoted mainly to deprive developing countries of their electricity. So imagine if 1 lakh people do this crypto mining, we are talking about that amount of electricity being drained away, where it is not going to reach its intended users. We have to understand that electricity is a finite product, and we have been using fossil fuel so far for generating it in the form of coal and diesel probably. But I think we should shift away from that and get renewable energies, because the way we are riddling around the whole of this earth, mining and I don't know, all these natural disasters, whether it has any bearing to that, or these are all thoughts which I have, and they also speak so much about the global warming and everything. Yes.
I've been speaking with a professor in Chennai and one inventor, I guess you could say, one of the students that was that the professor helped develop the patent. I was working on a patent here in India not too long ago, some very, very similar stuff. So I find that there's a lot of intelligent people in Chennai, and I'm actually trying to think about planning a trip to go over there and meet with the professor, but I don't know the situation with all the universities right now, COVID and this and that. He's had funding of, I think, like 50 crore to work on some of these projects. Now, it is compressed air storage is what it is. But yeah, I think it's possible. It absolutely is possible to get all these renewables stored in a manner that is not going to pollute, or you don't have to mine resources. I mean, there are options out there, and you do talk about building better schools, giving more opportunities for children, because the next generation will be the ones that will end up solving these problems for us. You know, we don't have all the resources now, but at some point, if we set up the schools and the learning and the places where people can get together and trade ideas like it used to be, then they're going to come up with these solutions. And we just have to lay the foundation for the next generation in order to solve these problems and be mindful of what we do now today, because it's going to have effect with the future tomorrow. So I don't know what's possible, but I definitely, I think there's a lot of good things that can come, you know, with India. There's a lot of bright people here, and I'm glad to see that they have a really good politician who's got some good head on his shoulders that's taking care of the people. So thank you, Dr. Veeraswamy. It's very, very nice to meet you.
Thank you. Thanks. You've given me a lot of food for thought. So I will also do a little bit of research on that.
His name is Dr. Valraj. I believe he's out of the University of Oceanography in Chennai. Okay. And I have your contact, and if it's okay, I'll send you some information. And
you can note down my mobile number also. It's 98410, or Harsha can share. You can note it down. It's 98410-35690. So, do you want me to repeat that again?
I got it. Thank you. 98410-35690.
Yeah, that's right. So anytime you're visiting Chennai, do get in touch with me. I can host you. I will take care of your hospitality. Give us an opportunity, and we'll show what Tamil Nadu's hospitality is.
Abhar. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Veeraswamy. It was a pleasure talking to you, sir. Any final message for all of us and for all the viewers?
See, the only message which I have for everybody in this world now is, everybody may have had ambitions to become the chief minister, prime minister, or the richest man on this earth, or whatever, but now everybody's ambition is only to stay alive for the next 2 or 3 years. So I feel that everybody should take care of yourselves, and today the only weapons we have in our hands are masks. None of us are wearing because we are sitting in our separate rooms. But I would urge everybody, use your masks, use your sanitizers, use your hand washing and social distancing, and go out only if utterly essential. Otherwise, stay at home, stay safe, and live out this pandemic. That is my message. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for joining us and giving us your time. Thank you.
Thank you very much.